is alive and safe. It is a shocking update to a mystery that has been unfolding in Utah for the past 5 weeks.
Guys, my necklace fell off, but I'm like trying to put it back on now. Seriously, it's a good thing like it fell off on my chair.
We've learned this missing teen walked into a Colorado police station Sunday night. Police say she's in good health, but there are still a lot of questions about how she got there and where she's been since she vanished on April 21st.
This is the girl that got kidnapped from the gas station.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
One of the 3 men charged for allegedly having twisted and sexually graphic conversations with Petrov online made his first appearance in court today.
Oh, hell
We're
no.
on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. A major sigh of relief in the story of Elisa Petrov. That teenager is safe and her family is on their way to being reunited with her. The teenager walked into a police station in Colorado Springs, Colorado Sunday night. That is more than 500 miles east of where she was last seen 5 weeks ago on April 21st in Provo, Utah. Now,
She
her
got
mom
kidnapped in
dropped her
Utah
off that
to
day at
Colorado?
school in American Fork, Utah, outside Salt Lake City. Police say this teenager didn't go to school. Instead, she went to a convenience store nearby, where you see this picture from surveillance video put out by the South Jordan, Utah police. Petrov then was able to get a ride from a stranger, according to police, to a nearby train station, and from there, she took a short train ride 20 minutes south to Provo, Utah. And that was the last time anyone saw Petrov until Sunday night. Colorado Springs,
You really gotta
seems
watch
to
your
be
kids,
a
man.
very surprising location for her to be based on what we knew to this point in this case. It had been reported that Petrov was seen at the Provo train station asking people for ways to get to Las Vegas. That's more than 5 hours southwest of Provo, Utah. The Las Vegas connection has to do with this man, Matthew Menard.
Mr. Menard, can you hear me?
Yes.
Here he is making his first court appearance today in Salt Lake City. He attended virtually from the Utah County Jail and showed little emotion in the brief hearing. The 35-year-old from Miami is facing several charges for allegedly having sexual and twisted, graphic online conversations with the missing 15-year-old going back to January. Police say the two talked up until the day before Petrov ran away. Before we get back to this story, I want to bring you a law and
Why was she
crime
talking to that
legal
man in the
alert.
first
Did you know
place,
that
though?
children under 21 are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? And research is suggesting that ultra-processed foods are linked to these outcomes.
Okay.
Our partner
Yeah, we're not
is at
doing
Morgan
the, we're not doing the
if
mid.
you're or not more and child sex abuse material from this 15-year-old girl, and they say he
15
knew
trying to go
that
to
she was
Vegas.
underage. Menard also allegedly came up with a plan for Petrov to meet him in Las Vegas. He told the girl he was going there for work in late May, and he said she should go there before he gets there and hide out. Then he said they would go to Los Angeles before returning to his home in Miami. Not only do police say that Menard talked about having sex with Petrov, knowing that she was 15 years old, he said that they could hide her identity by telling people that she was his daughter. At the hearing
he's sick
today,
as fuck.
Menard's defense attorney waived the reading of the charges in court. Menard will have another hearing next week on Monday to look at whether he will be granted bail. He's currently being held without bail. There are 2 other men facing charges in connection to sexually graphic conversations online with Petrov before
So
she
you're talking to all
vanished.
them
The
niggas,
next
though?
man expected to be in court this week is Samuel Mitchell. We don't have a lot of information on him at this point, but we know he will be in court on Wednesday this week. This is what we do know about him as well. He's 41 years old from Harriman, Utah. That's about a half hour from where Petrov lived, both outside of Salt Lake City. He was connected to Petrov through conversations on Snapchat and Discord that police discovered, and police believe that he may have had video calls with the girl. Police say that they found child sex abuse material on Mitchell's phone of a girl who's believed to be about 12 years old and another girl who
hell
looks
no.
to be 15. But police didn't say in court documents if any of the images on his phone were Elisa Petrov. The third man, William Glines, is in custody in Texas City, Texas. Police say they
He was
found
talking
his
to 3
conversations
niggas, bro.
with Petrov after the girl went missing because they were going through her online history and discovered some twisted conversations that he was having with the girl online. Glines is facing charges in both Texas and Utah. Mitchell and Menard are both facing charges in Utah.
Guys, my necklace fell off, but I'm like trying to put it back on now. Seriously, it's a good thing like it fell off on my chair.
On her YouTube page, Petrov posted videos that show her being a very typical teenager.
And I'm gonna use some brown.
Is anyone missing a little ring?
I wish, bro.
Oh, that might be one of my friends.
But after her disappearance, there were some very concerning clues on her online accounts. This is what her TikTok said under her name. You can look at her profile description. It reads, "Mom and Dad, I love you so much. 4/16/2010 to 4/21/2025. That's her birthday to the day that police say she ran away. And as the weeks went on, this ominous message and what appeared to be silence on social media for someone who was so online before she vanished raised so many concerns. And there are still so many questions about what happened to Elisa Petrov and where she's been for the last several weeks. At the time of this recording, all we know is that she walked into that police station in Colorado Springs and her family is now on their way to be reunited with her. Join us now once more to talk about this case is missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who also worked for the family of Elisa Petrov as the search continued up until Sunday night. Steve, at first, what is your reaction? What was your reaction when you read that Elisa Petrov showed up at this police station in Colorado Springs?
Well, obviously very happy, but kind of shocked. I'll tell you, there was a few cities on our list, and Colorado Springs was not one of them. So it was definitely a surprise, and it'll be interesting to find out exactly how she got there and what the circumstances were. But obviously, very relieved, as is the family, that she's alive.
Yeah, what is? I know you've been in touch with the family. What have they told you since the news has come out that she's okay?
Well, they, just about how happy they were. They are flying there to get her. I've given them space, obviously, until they get back and catch their breath, including her. So I don't have too many details besides they're overjoyed that she's safe.
It's incredible because I know last week as we've been in touch throughout this, it just felt like as the weeks went on, and she was someone who, like so many teens, is just so online, and then it was just nothing. And then you just worried, what that would mean. But she physically is okay, shows up at the police station. What are the main questions you have at this point about everything that happened over the last 5-6 weeks?
Yeah, and I agree. Listen, as the time went on, that 5 weeks, it got really
She was
scary.
gone for
Especially
5 weeks,
I was in Vegas the last 4 days searching, and nobody knew. None of the people in that kind of the underground industry or anything knew anything, and it really worried me. So this is a great outcome. But the things that I'd like to know is, directly tied to her getting to Colorado Springs, who got her there? Because I'm assuming that it most likely was a private party. If it was by Greyhound or something, then I'd be kind of disappointed that there was a breakdown in the ability for law enforcement to scan that
She planned to go hang out with
Lake or wherever it may have been.
some like basically run away with this
so I assume
dude.
it's probably by private party. How did she meet that private party, and why were they willing to take her 600 miles or whatever it is? And who has she been with for the last 5 weeks? Somebody I doubt she's living on the street, and especially in it gets awfully cold there at night, even in the summer. Who's she been with, and why did she not call her parents or not call law enforcement number that's on the flyer, assuming she probably saw the social media campaign? And I imagine, not just social media, but the news, like yourself covering this, is probably what got her or somebody to drop her off at the police station. Why didn't she call her parents or whatever first? Why was she dropped off at a police station or come into a police station, I should say?
Right, because and it was surprising too as I thought about it, because she's found east of Utah, and it felt like the locations that we had potentially talked about of where she may be, everything
Yeah, they
was
said
west,
she planned to
right?
go to
Like, you had
Vegas
Las
with this
Vegas,
dude,
and you look at this plan that
and
Matthew
he was gonna take her to
Menard
Las
allegedly put together online, and we'll
Los
talk about him in
Angeles,
just a moment, but it was,
and then
hey,
from
we're
Los
gonna meet in
Angeles,
Las
they was gonna
Vegas
go
'cause I'm
back
there
to
for
Miami.
work. Then we'll go to Los Angeles, and then eventually we'll go back to Miami. And then she ends up at a place where it seems like no one, at least publicly, was expecting. What resources, and I know you've talked with the family, if you've been piecing it together, because I'm just thinking like, yeah, Greyhound bus maybe to Colorado Springs, something like that. I should have checked beforehand. I don't even know if Greyhound goes direct, you think, from like a Salt Lake or a Provo, or if she would have had to go through Denver or something like that on a bus. But what resources did she have with her that we know about that could have given her access to the ability to move as she did to get to a place like Colorado Springs?
So the family knew that she had about $1,000 or between $1,000 and $1,500 cash on her, and that checked out when she got off on the the train in the Provo station and attempted to buy a Greyhound ticket. Her problem was that they don't have a counter at that station; they just have a kiosk where you can use a credit card. So what she was doing is she had asked a couple people if she could give them cash and if they could use their credit card to buy her a ticket to Las Vegas. And so that's why Vegas was really on our map. That combined with the messaging that was found in Menard's devices. So that really threw us off. And I don't know if it was a last second change. You know, she did, after the people that she asked, there's a food bank right by that Provo station. And the people that she had asked were some people that were kind of down on their luck and they didn't have credit cards to do that with. Then she did ask somebody that worked at the food bank that drives their shuttle buses for a ride to Salt Lake, which they said, no. And she was willing to pay for, to buy ticket, or she was willing to pay cash. So I don't know if she just ran across somebody that she was seen. This is something that wasn't, I don't think, too out there, but she was witnessed talking to somebody in SUV at that station, but it was not, you could not tell from the surveillance for whatever reason if she left in that car or not. So I don't know if she just ran across a private party or if she went to Salt Lake and changed her mind, or if there's an element to this that we just we're yet to, find out about. It's hard to say. It's confusing for sure how she ended up in Colorado Springs. And the more confusing thing to me is who's she been with the last 5 weeks?
Right, because part of me wonders, like, was she able to, like, if she had like $1,000 in cash, does that get you to Colorado Springs? Then maybe does she like rent a hotel? But they wouldn't rent, I assume, if you don't have ID on you to be 15, you're 15. It's not like she would have had like a hotel room on her own for the last couple of days. So like she had to have been, we assume, with someone else. What do we know what electronics she had with her? Like a cell phone or I know they found this iPad that, eventually led them to all these conversations with the three men charged in this case. But was it just the cash? And I know she had that backpack. Was that really it?
Well, I personally, I don't have any exact information on this, but I personally believe that it's highly likely she had a burner phone. I do, from her call records.
She had a burner too?
I can't disclose exact contents of it. I can tell you that there was a dramatic shift in usage and so a couple of weeks before. So to me, it looked like, there had been a change in device. But there was no record of that anywhere. So she very well could have, and we weren't sure if that was something like Menard had maybe arranged for her to get or even sent to her somehow. And he could listen, that element of it, he could have no part in. We don't know. I think we'll find out. But I think that there probably was another device that that the family was not aware of, and it definitely was not on their one that they had purchased or on their plans, because
so they hadn't even got it yet.
8-year-old iPad they had forgot about. They did thoroughly go back and check every device that they ever bought and whatnot.
Because if she had her cell phone, that was her cell phone, or a laptop, that was hers. I know in her YouTube videos, like, she has a laptop. She logs onto that. I assume that would have sent out an alert that that's where she would have been. Like, that's something
tranquil.
That she wouldn't have been able to log on, I'm saying, from the known devices that she had.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yes, and they certainly were monitoring that. In fact, there was an instance where the father had, early on had tried to access an account to see if he could find out anything, and it drew a warrant the next day. So they were on top of that. And she did have those. She did have two devices with her, and so they can track the IMEIs to see if it's like a new SIM's been put or something, or it's been sold. To a kiosk or whatnot. But it didn't, as far as we know, it didn't. I will say yesterday, myself and my analyst did notice a couple new accounts with kind of different strange account names that showed up on her following list, which is only something that she can add people to or whoever's in control of the account, unless it's an account that deactivated and then all of a sudden suddenly reactivated at some point.
What?
But there was a couple changes in the last 48
If somebody
hours. So I was
follows
wondering
you,
if
like
maybe that was her.
anybody
through
could follow
a
you.
different account, or somebody else. And I guess we'll find that out.
Yeah, and I'm sure from the time that we're taping this interview to probably a couple hours from now, we'll have more information. Full disclosure for people watching, Matthew Menard expected to make his first court appearance in about an hour from the time that we're recording this right now, just so if anything does become dated in the interview, that's why. But for the three men who are facing charges, Glines, Mitchell, and Menard, related to Elisa Petrov's disappearance, how does her being alive affect their cases now?
Well, especially for Menard, it's a big deal because Menard, with the enticement and in her, potentially been lured out of the house going to Vegas to meet him. If something had happened to her along that way, he can be charged with that homicide, because it's death at hands of another, and because he lured her, enticed her, even if he didn't plan on going. That was still hanging over his head. So I think that's probably a relief to him. It shouldn't, I don't think it shouldn't change the charges much. She's only a witness in those. This is the state versus those men, but she is a key witness. So I guess it comes down to, listen, it's going to be a traumatic experience for a 15-year-old, no matter what the circumstances, to have all your business, aired out, in a public trial like that. So, we don't know. I mean, it probably does help them on a plea deal a little bit, but, we'll find out more as these hearings go on, like today's, which we'll find out if they get bail or not.
Right, and that's a big part of it. Mitchell is expected in court on Wednesday, similar type of appearance as Menard is having today. How could her turning up, but then what we know about his background impact whether or not he remains in the Salt Lake County Jail?
Yeah, so on Mitchell, there was actually a risk assessment that was posted to the docket where, they do an assessment of whether this person they think is safe to put out on bail or own recognizance. And they actually
I want to see what she got to say.
To let him out on his own recognizance with some conditions, one being, I think, weekly check-ins or something like that. It was a bit surprising, but the fact is that he does not have a previous record. And they deemed him a very low, risk to the community to reoffend. Menard, there is not a risk assessment, at least publicly available. There might be privately, and I don't know if that's because
parents and
he's
still
not
ran off. That's
like
crazy.
Mitchell is, or why that is.